All right, all right, all right. We are back here at Song of the Day, coming to you from the Rock Cave. I'm your host, Mark Pierce. It is season 5, finally. What's it been? 3 weeks? I don't know, 4 weeks. It's been a while since we've been here, but I'm excited for season 5. And there's no better way to kick off a season than to have a guest here in the cave. And we are lucky to have Michael Murray back here in the cave for his third episode. We'll talk about that in a minute. Welcome back to the cave and welcome to the season 5 opener, Michael.
Well, thank you, Mark. I didn't realize I was going to be the honored guest on the opener of season 5. That's amazing.
Oh, that's the
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, we've been talking for a while about what we were going to cover, and I've been just doing some other things, and I'm doing some work here in the cave. And you can't tell because all you ever see is this back here. But doing some stuff with my stereo down here and stuff in here, stuff that you probably will never see. But I've been keeping myself busy. But I am excited for season 5. We talk about topics. There are plenty of topics, and we'll get some new stuff out there. We'll revisit some old stuff. But I don't know. We're at something like 1,100 episodes or something like that, so there's going to be some overlap. But I know you're a huge contributor, so it's nice to have you on here. And when we were talking back and forth, I said, Michael, what do you want to cover? And you pretty much right away came up with this one, and I was all about it.
Yep.
You're talking about the English Beat, General Public, and Fine Young Cannibals, 3 bands.
Three bands, one episode.
Right, so that counts. You're in the 5 time club now.
Yep. I need the jacket.
Yeah, we gotta get that jacket. It's right over there on the rack. I'm gonna have to FedEx that to you so you can put that on.
I
You
don't
are,
know. You got to make sure you put down if I'm going to be on here that this is not going to be a Prague episode, so your viewership might go up.
right, exactly. Somehow or another, we seem to always manage to have long discussions, and you know what? That's just what happens. What are you gonna
It
do?
is what it is.
Yeah, right. But you're sporting an English Beat T-shirt, so we're going to talk about that. So why don't we just cut to it so we can try to make this less prog length? Just want to let you start. Tell me about the English Beat.
Well, the English Beat, or as they are known in England, the Beat, they did have to change their name when they came to the U.S. to the English Beat because there was a band here called the Beat. And I think, as you mentioned, in Australia, they are the British Beat. So I'm assuming there is a English Beat and a Beat down there, although I did not know that. But yeah, they are a band out of Birmingham, England, who has produced just some monster bands from that area. Uh, Predominantly a white group, so of course they play ska, which is traditionally not really what we would consider white music, but there you go. They
Yeah, man,
started back.
Led Zeppelin,
uh,
Sabbath, Judas Priest, Duran Duran, ELO, Traffic, the Moody
uh,
Blues, and then you got your reggae ska. You got UB40, and these guys, and music.
Youth. Yep.
Yeah, and this was during a time of pretty severe economic troubles, which was also that was 78, but that was also the case for Sabbath in 1968, post
Mhm.
post World War. So Birmingham's had its struggles, but it sure has churned out a lot of bands, a lot of great bands.
Well, I'm assuming it's probably got something to do, and it's kind of like Detroit back in the day. I mean, it's a depressed neighborhood where you don't have a lot of guys are unemployed, so they got to do something.
Right.
And music is a way out. And yeah, they started off like everybody else. They saw the Sex Pistols and said, "We need to start a band," and away they went.
Which is amazing because I mean the Sex Pistols must have been hard to hear live, and then somehow that became a ska. They became a ska kind of new wave ska band. But anyway, the Sex Pistols influenced a lot of people to make music, even if it
They
was
absolutely did. I have to admit that not my favorite band, but the fact that they encouraged so many people that they watched them and said, "Well, if they can do it, I can do it."
yeah.
So away they went. Yeah. So originally it was just what a four-person band, two guitarists, a bass player, and a drummer. Eventually, they added Rankin Roger, who would actually just kept showing up at the shows and kind of singing off to the side until eventually Dave Wakeling said, "All right, well, come on up and show me what you can do." Uh, Roger at the time was 16 years old, uh, dropped out of high school at 16 to become a full-time member of the Beat. Actually lived in Dave Wakeling's spare bedroom because his mom basically kicked him out. And he said in 6 months from the time he quit, 6 months later, he was on Top of the Pops with a top single in the UK. So it can happen, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they brought a Jamaican influence on stage, and that changed everything. And they not
Yep.
only that, but they had a vocalist in Dave Wakeling already, but they brought a vocalist on, and his primary role was vocalist.
Yeah. He was a Toastmaster,
Yeah,
which
right.
we call rapper.
Yeah,
But yeah, he would rap and do the Jamaican toasting, which, you know, uh, kind of get the crowd riled up, get everybody moving, that kind of thing. So he was a what do you call it?
like an
Just
MC.
a yeah, dance around the stage energy guy.
Yeah, I mean, to sidetrack, Madness had that same vibe when they were doing their ska thing. You can see one of their shows. There's just in their videos. There's a guy whose only job is to sit there and dance and get and do the kind of move around the stage and just get people going.
Right.
So they put out three albums in 80, 81, and 82.
Yep.
Just as they did, the 70s and early 80s, bands just churned out records faster than it's just so fast. And they were huge in the UK, but not so much here.
No, well, much like a lot of those bands, they were huge in the UK. They made, Top of the Pops. They did oh, the lights went out. Um, all the NME, all the magazines, all that stuff. But they just could not break through over here. But when they were in England, they were the stuff. But unfortunately, as we've talked about some other bands, even though you've got a number one or top 10 album in the UK, with the contracts that most of those bands signed back in those days, you were not making a lot of money. Um, it was very tough, and by the time they got to their third album, they were up to seven people in the band, um,
A lot of,
and
a lot of mouths to feed.
yeah, and they were also very socialistic in that everybody got an equal share. So splitting money up seven ways when you're not making that much, even though you're a big star, it was a little tough. Um,
Yeah, their first record had like five singles on it in the UK. When then Mirror in the Bathroom went to number three. I'm surprised that was not any kind of hit in the United States. But that was a huge deal. I mean, that hit the dance charts in the US.
yep.
I don't think I heard an English beat song until, I don't know when, but maybe not till the 90s. I don't know. I can't say. I don't know if I heard them in the 80s.
I don't I mean I did hear them, and we'll talk about it a little bit later when we talk about general public, but I remember Stand Down Margaret, which um, unfortunately doesn't really play well to the United States because they're talking about, Margaret Thatcher needs to quit her job. Um, so there wasn't really a lot of US people going, yeah, let's get behind that album. I mean, Save It for Later was for me the big song that got me really into them. One of my favorite songs ever.
I agree.
Um,
I can't picture when I heard that song, but I love that song.
yeah. Well, I have to give credit where credit is due. My dorm mate back in Crandall D, Chris Cuco, he played a lot of this type of music. So he played the Beat. He played the Smiths. The first time I heard the Smiths was in his room. He played Meat is Murder. Also turned me on to UB40. So kudos to Chris. I haven't spoken to him in many, many years. So if you're watching, Chris, hit me up, man. Come on.
And for those of you who might be first-time watchers or not seen the other episodes, we went to UConn together, fraternity brothers, and we are talking about University of Connecticut and stores. The Golden Age.
Basketball capital of the world.
And back then, we were Playboy's #1 party school.
That's true.
Yeah. And they toured. But they came to the United States. They toured with The Clash and David Bowie, and you'll talk about that in a second. The Police, REM, Specials. I mean, they were openers. They were around, but they just they didn't really they didn't take off. But they did play a pretty big concert before they bowed out. So talk about that.
Yeah, well, they did play the US Festival. Obviously they weren't a headliner, but they were on the stage and they got really good reviews and people were really excited about it. And I think uh, honestly, as we talked a little bit beforehand, that's probably the beginning of the end for them was at the US Festival. And I think I'll do a little visual aid. This is Rankin Rogers' autobiography, which
Right.
I read, which is fantastic. But he talks about him and Dave talking, going, we're we're not going to make it in the U.S. And with seven guys splitting the take, we can't do this. So everybody knows us. We're the face of the band. We do all the singing, we do all the music, we do everything. The two of us need to split off and do our own thing.